This is part 6 in a series talking about banking, central banking, and the federal government. The question I'm going to discuss today is, why would the federal government allow there to be a central bank? Well, there's only one reason really for having a central bank, and that's to give the federal government, which we see represented here by this House, unlimited resources. In other words, they can use the central bank right here, give it the power to create money, and then use that to fund its debt spending. In other words, when it's not taking in enough taxes from the people, that's me right here, when it's not getting enough taxes, it can supplement that by just having the central bank create money, fiat money, money that doesn't exist on its own, and then just giving it to the Treasury in the form of debt IOUs. This is how that works. The central bank right here has no money. There's nothing inside of that. Creates the money by just making a deposit entry onto the bank statement of a member bank. So that's this bank here. So they make a deposit entry of a certain number of dollars, say this number of dollars, fiat money. It's deposited into this bank. Now, how does that get transferred to the federal government? The bank goes to an auction where the government is selling bonds. Bonds are IOUs. All right, so what happens is the bank buys this bond, transfers the fiat money to the U.S. Treasury, back here. The bond then the bank owns this bond right here, and they collect interest on it from the federal government. So that's how that transaction takes place. This gives the government unlimited spending money. This is why the government has really no interest in balancing its budget, because it can get all the money at once. And of course, the price that is exacted for that is in the form of inflation. Your money becomes worth less. And this happens when they've taxed you already to the hilt. Say, they're already taxing me like 40% or something like that. They can't legitimately go up to 70% or something. They taxed me out. So the way they can continue to tax me is by causing the money that I have accumulated to become worth less through inflation. And that's what happens when they do this. So the central bank is just a way of to allow the federal government to confiscate more of your money without knowing about it, or being able to do anything about it. Essentially, it's essentially stealing your money. All right, so the central bank does that, and in return for doing that, they get autonomy. In other words, they get to control the money supply. They get to make interest off all the money that they create out of nothing. In other words, they charge interest when they do this stuff. Like when they loan the money to this bank, they're charging this bank interest, and then they're buying the bond. So all these banks are making interest out of this money that was created, while the only person that's getting screwed in this whole thing is, where are we? Right here, you and me. Now, there's other functions of the central bank too. They're supposed to control the money supply. In other words, they're supposed to prevent inflation. Even though they don't do that, they cause inflation. Another thing the central bank does is they allow there to be loose money policies. In other words, they allow the creation of more money to flow into the economy, which, when the economy has easy money, it causes bubbles. And here's an example of the bubble. One example is the Great Depression. The easy money policies of the central bank during the 1920s caused people to borrow a lot of money. And what did they buy with the money they borrowed? They bought stocks. This created a bubble in the stock market, which crashed in 1927, which caused the Depression. You can see this same phenomena happening throughout all of our history. The last several times it happened in the dot-com bubble, where people were borrowing money, easy money borrowing, and buying stocks with it, which eventually crashed around 2001, causing another depression. Most recently with the housing bubble, where people borrowed money easy money to buy housing, which ran up the prices of housing, which became unsustainable and eventually collapsed. So when you see these rises and crashes in the economy, these are all caused by the central bank manipulating the money supply in such a fashion that it causes the economy to heat up too much into an unsustainable level, and then it crashes. This is all caused by this central bank right here printing too much money and throwing it out into the economy. So you might say, well, yeah, this is all an evil scheme. You might agree with me, it's an evil scheme. Well, what's happening right now? Right now, exactly the same thing is happening. The interest rates are extremely low on loans. There's easy money to be had, and it's creating a bubble even as we speak that's going to crash in the near future. What is the bubble in? One of the bubbles is probably in the stock market again, and the other is definitely in bonds. People who own bonds are going to lose most of their money, because as interest rates go up, as they have to, in order to create a demand for all the debt that's out there, the interest rates are going to go up and bonds are going to become worth less and less and less. So that's what's going on right now. That's why this entire system needs to be dismantled and destroyed. And if it is not, it will only cause the further collapse of the economy, and probably eventually the end of our economy and the creation of a central currency as part of a new world order. Thanks for listening.